Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt a story so deep it stopped you in your tracks? Picture this: a single mother, broken by loss, rebuilding her life from ashes, radiating a quiet strength that words can't capture. Carl Jung, the master of the human psyche, once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." In this video, we're diving into the 11 unmistakable signs of those who've walked through life's darkest storms, people. Carl Jung called hidden survivors and come out transformed, stronger and more alive than ever. These aren't just traits, they're a roadmap to unlocking your own resilience. By the end, you'll not only spot these signs in others, but discover how to cultivate them in yourself. So, are you ready to uncover the secrets of those who've turned pain into power? Let's begin. What does it take to truly master yourself? Carl Jung believed that true strength isn't loud or showy. It's a quiet power forged in the fires of life's toughest moments. People who've survived their darkest days don't just bounce back. They evolve into something greater. In this chapter, we'll uncover 3 powerful signs of those who've walked through hell and emerged as masters of their own psyche: the pause before speaking, boundaries without apology, and an unshakable commitment to honesty. These aren't just habits, they're proof of a transformed soul. Let's dive in. Sign 1. The pause before speaking. Imagine this: you're at a heated team meeting, voices overlapping, everyone rushing to make their point. Amid the chaos, one person sits quietly, eyes steady, taking a moment before responding. That pause isn't hesitation, it's power. Carl Jung called this shadow integration, the ability to confront your inner thoughts before letting them spill into the world. Hidden survivors, those who faced life's deepest trials, develop this skill not because they're unsure, but because they've learned the weight of words. Take Michael, a 40-year-old entrepreneur who lost his first business to a brutal market crash. In the aftermath, he was consumed by anger, lashing out in conversations, alienating partners and friends. But through years of self-reflection, what Carl Jung would call wrestling with his shadow, Michael learned to pause. He'd take a breath, sift through his emotions, and choose words that built bridges instead of burning them. Carl Jung's research shows this pause is a hallmark of conscious filtering, a skill trauma survivors develop to ensure their words align with their truth. Why does this matter? Because that split-second pause is where healing happens. It's the space between reacting impulsively and responding authentically. Carl Jung described it as the seed of personal power, where you break free from automatic patterns and choose intentionality. Next time you're in a conversation, notice who pauses, not out of fear, but from mastery. They're the ones who face their inner storms and learn to navigate them with precision. Their silence speaks louder than any shout. Sign 2. Boundaries without apology now. Picture Sarah, a 28-year-old graphic designer who spent years trapped in a toxic relationship. She used to say yes to everyone: friends, family, her manipulative ex, afraid of disappointing anyone. But after hitting rock bottom, she discovered a truth. Carl Jung emphasized, living inauthentically is a betrayal of the self. Today, Sarah sets boundaries with surgical precision. When a client demands last-minute changes without respect for her time, she calmly says, "No, that won't work for my schedule." No apologies, no over-explaining, just clarity. Carl Jung called this the integration of persona and authentic self. Hidden survivors don't wear masks to please others. They've paid the price of people pleasing and learned. It's a losing game. Their boundaries aren't walls to shut people out. They're filters, letting in those who respect their energy and keeping out those who drain it. Carl Jung's research reveals that this ability to say no without guilt marks complete self-acceptance, what he termed internal authorization. It's the moment you stop seeking external validation and start approving of yourself. This isn't selfishness, it's survival. When Sarah sets a boundary, she's not rejecting others, she's protecting her peace. She's learned that her energy is a sacred resource, and she guards it fiercely. You'll spot these survivors in their quiet resolve when they say no. It's final, delivered with a calm that commands respect. Carl Jung found this to be a defining trait of those who've rebuilt themselves after being broken. They've chosen self-preservation over people-pleasing, and it's a choice that changes everything. Sign 3. Valuing honesty finally. Let's talk about honesty, not just telling the truth, but craving it. Hidden survivors. Like Lisa, a 5-year-old therapist who overcame childhood trauma, become allergic to deception. Lisa once hid her pain behind a polished facade, pretending everything was fine. But after years of facing her truth through therapy and Carl Jung's shadow work, she developed what Carl Jung called truth radar. She can spot a lie, whether it's a colleague's excuse or her own self-deception, from a mile away. Carl Jung discovered that those who've survived psychological fire value honesty above comfort. They'd rather hear a painful truth than a beautiful lie, because they know denial is the enemy of healing. Lisa, for instance, asks direct questions in sessions with her clients, cutting through small talk to reach the heart of their struggles. This isn't rudeness, it's efficiency. Born from years of wading through illusions, Carl Jung called this brutal self-honesty, the courage to face your flaws, fears, and mistakes without flinching. Why is this so powerful? Because honesty builds unshakable foundations. Hidden survivors know that authentic relationships, whether with others or themselves, require truth as their bedrock. Carl Jung's research shows that this commitment to truth is a sign of completed shadow work, where you've faced the parts of yourself you once denied and integrated them into your being. When you meet someone who values honesty like this, you'll feel it. Their words carry weight, their presence feels real, and their authenticity inspires you to seek the same. Why mastery of self matters. These 3 signs: pausing before speaking, setting boundaries without apology, and valuing honesty are more than traits. They're the building blocks of psychological mastery. Carl Jung believed that those who've been through hell don't just survive, they become architects of their own souls. They've learned to control their impulses, protect their energy, and live in truth. Not because it's easy, but because they've seen the cost of living otherwise. As you reflect on these signs, ask yourself, which one resonates with you? Are you ready to pause, set boundaries, and embrace honesty in your own life? These are the first steps on the path to becoming who you truly are. What does it look like to stand unshaken when the world around you crumbles? Carl Jung taught us that true resilience isn't about avoiding life's storms, it's about learning to dance in them. Those who've been through hell and back don't just survive chaos, they thrive in it, wielding a quiet strength that transforms crises into opportunities. In this chapter, we'll explore 2 defining signs of these hidden survivors: their ability to stay calm in chaos and their refusal to waste energy on meaningless conflict. These traits aren't just coping mechanisms, they're proof of a psyche forged in fire. Let's dive into the heart of resilience. Sign 2. Calm in chaos picture. A hospital emergency room in the middle of a crisis. A power outage. Patients flooding in. Staff scrambling. Amid the frenzy, Emily, a 35-year-old nurse, moves with purpose, while others panic. Her hands are steady, her voice calm, directing the team with clarity. This isn't just skill, it's what Carl Jung called unshakable centeredness, a trait earned through surviving life's darkest moments. Emily wasn't always this way. Adhikadiago, she lost her brother in a sudden accident, plunging her into grief that felt like quicksand. But through that pain, she rebuilt herself, learning to focus when everything felt like it was falling apart. Carl Jung's research reveals that this calm isn't a natural gift, it's earned wisdom. Hidden survivors like Emily have faced their worst-case scenarios and come out the other side. Carl Jung described this as developing psychological antibodies, a resilience that makes them immune to chaos's paralyzing effects. When a crisis hits, they don't freeze, they focus. They don't scatter, they consolidate. Carl Jung explained this as post-traumatic growth, where trauma doesn't just break you, it transforms you into someone stronger than before. Why is this so powerful? Because their calm isn't numbness, it's presence. In a boardroom meltdown or a family argument, you'll see them, the ones who breathe deeply, assess the situation, and act with intention. Carl Jung found that these survivors have learned to separate what they can control from what they cannot, pouring their energy into their sphere of influence. While others seek comfort, they seek solutions. While others need reassurance, they become the reassurance. Emily, for instance, doesn't just manage the ER, she anchors it. Her presence, a beacon for others. This is resilience in action, not avoiding the storm, but standing tall within it. Sign 10. No energy for meaningless conflict now. Imagine James, a 42-year-old software engineer, scrolling through a heated social media thread. His colleagues are firing off comments, each one more aggressive than the last. Debating a trivial workplace policy, James reads, shakes his head, and closes the app. He's not avoiding conflict, he's choosing his battles. Years ago, James lost his job and his marriage in the same year, a double blow that forced him to rebuild from nothing. Through that crucible, he learned what Carl Jung called energy conservation mastery, the ability to protect your life force for what truly matters. Carl Jung discovered that hidden survivors don't engage in petty arguments or workplace drama because they've seen the cost of wasting energy on things that don't serve their growth. They've developed what Carl Jung termed strategic disengagement, a skill that lets them walk away from conflicts that lead nowhere. You'll notice this in how they respond to provocation. A co-worker's snide remark gets a nod, not a retort. A family member's attempt to drag them into old grudges is met with a polite exit. Carl Jung called this psychological efficiency, a choice to preserve energy for creation, not destruction. Why does this matter? Because meaningless conflict is a trap. Carl Jung's research shows that many arguments aren't about resolution, they're about releasing emotional pressure. Hidden survivors like James recognize this. When a debate spirals into ego-driven chaos, they step back, not out of weakness, but from strength. James, for example, channels his energy into mentoring young coders, not arguing over office politics. Carl Jung described this as sacred energy management, treating your mental and emotional resources like the precious fuel they are. These survivors have learned that peace is worth more than being right, and harmony outweighs the need to have the last word. Why resilience in crisis matters. Calm in chaos and refusing meaningless conflict are two sides of the same coin, a psyche that's been tested and tempered. Carl Jung believed that those who've walked through fire don't just recover, they redefine what strength means. They've learned to anchor themselves in storms and to save their energy for battles that matter. As you watch Emily stabilize a chaotic ER or James walk away from a pointless argument, you're seeing what Carl Jung called integrated strength, a power that doesn't shout but resonates deeply. Ask yourself, when chaos strikes, do you panic or focus? When conflict arises, do you engage or let it go? These choices mark the path to resilience, a path you can walk to. What does it mean to truly connect with others and yourself? Carl Jung believed that those who faced life's darkest moments don't just survive, they forge a deeper bond with the human experience. These hidden survivors carry a unique ability to feel, understand, and embrace others without judgment, while finding peace in their own company. In this chapter, we'll explore 3 profound signs of their transformation: compassion without judgment, walking alone without fear, and a depth in their eyes that tells a story of resilience. These traits aren't just qualities, they're the heartbeat of authentic connection. Let's dive in. Sign 3. Compassion without judgment. Imagine a crowded coffee shop where Anna, a 40-year-old teacher, notices a teenage girl sitting alone, her eyes downcast, shoulders hunched. While others pass by, Anna senses the girl's quiet struggle. She approaches, offers a warm smile, and asks, "Rough day?" No pity, no assumptions, just genuine care. This is what Carl Jung called archetypal compassion, a deep understanding of human suffering that transcends personal experience. Anna wasn't always this way. Years ago, she battled depression after losing her job, feeling invisible in her pain. Through that darkness, she learned to recognize suffering in others, even when it's hidden behind a polished facade. Carl Jung's research reveals that hidden survivors develop an almost psychic ability to detect distress, what he termed a connection to the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of human pain and healing. They don't just sympathize, they see you. Their compassion comes without judgment, because they've faced their own shadows and know that struggle isn't weakness, it's universal. Anna, for instance, doesn't view the teenager's sadness as failure. She sees it as a chapter in her story. Carl Jung found that this earned empathy only emerges after someone has accepted their own darkest moments, allowing them to offer presence rather than platitudes. Why does this matter? Because true connection begins with understanding, not fixing. Hidden survivors like Anna don't offer quick advice or empty words. They offer a space where others feel safe to be themselves. Carl Jung described this as a hallmark of psychological healing, the ability to hold space for someone's pain without labeling it. When you meet someone who listens without judging, who sees your struggle without trying to solve it, you've met a survivor who's turned their pain into wisdom. Sign 7. Walking alone without fear. Now, picture David, a 32-year-old writer, sitting alone at a restaurant, savoring his meal with a quiet smile. He's not checking his phone or scanning the room for company. He's content in his own presence. Years ago, David feared solitude, filling his life with noise, to drown out the pain of a broken childhood. But after years of self-discovery, what Carl Jung called self-actualization, he found that solitude isn't loneliness. It's a sanctuary. Hidden survivors like David can walk alone without desperation, a sign of profound inner strength. Carl Jung discovered that those who've been through hell learn to become their own best company. They don't need others to feel complete because they've built what he called an internal home, a sense of belonging within themselves. You'll notice this in their ease with silence, their lack of urgency in relationships, their ability to enjoy their own thoughts. David, for example, travels solo, spends weekends reading, and finds joy in his own creative world. Carl Jung termed this psychological self-sufficiency, the ability to generate stability without external validation. Why is this so powerful? Because it transforms how they love. Survivors who are comfortable alone choose relationships out of desire, not need. Carl Jung found that this independence makes them better partners, friends, and colleagues because they're not seeking someone to fill a void, they're already whole. When you see someone at peace in their own company, you're witnessing what Carl Jung called the foundation of true connection, a relationship with oneself that sets the tone for every other bond. Sign 8, depth in their eyes. Have you ever met someone whose gaze feels like it sees right through you, Maria? A 55-year-old therapist has eyes that hold stories, pain, wisdom, and an unshakable calm. When she listens, you feel truly seen, not judged. This is what Carl Jung called soul depth, a quality that marks those who faced life's fires and emerged transformed. Maria survived a devastating divorce that shattered her sense of self. Through years of inner work, she rebuilt, integrating her pain into wisdom. Her eyes don't just reflect experience, they radiate authenticity. Jung's research shows that significant trauma, when processed, creates what he called accelerated consciousness development. This depth isn't about age or being an old soul, it's about transformation. Survivors like Maria make eye contact without discomfort, their gaze steady, not darting for approval or distraction. Jung described this as transparent authenticity, a state where there's no mask, no performance, just raw presence. Their eyes reveal what Jung called integrated experience. They've faced their pain, not buried it, and learned that vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. Why does this matter? Because the eyes are windows to psychological health. When you meet someone with this depth, you feel it instantly, a sense of knowing, of shared humanity. Maria's clients often say her presence alone makes them feel safe. Jung believed this depth comes from embracing one's truth. No matter how painful, it's what makes these survivors fellow travelers on the path of conscious evolution. As Jung put it, their gaze doesn't just see you, it invites you to see yourself. Why empathy and connection matter: compassion without judgment, walking alone without fear, and depth in their eyes. These signs reveal a heart that's been broken and mended, a soul that's learned to love deeply. Jung taught that those who've survived life's darkest moments don't just heal, they become bridges between people, between pain and hope. They connect not through words alone, but through presence, authenticity, and an unshakable belief in the human spirit. As you reflect on these signs, ask yourself, do you see the pain in others without judging? Are you at peace in your own company? Does your presence invite others to be real? These are the marks of a survivor and the path to becoming one yourself. What does it mean to live with wisdom earned through hardship? Carl Jung taught that those who've walked through life's darkest valleys don't just come out alive. They emerge with a profound perspective that transforms how they see the world. These hidden survivors carry a quiet wisdom, shaped by loss, in struggle, and rebirth. In this final chapter, we'll explore 3 powerful signs of their transformation: gratitude in small things, patience with life, and a quiet confidence that radiates strength. These aren't just traits, they're the essence of a life lived fully. Let's uncover the wisdom they've earned. Sign 4, gratitude in small things. Picture Marcus, a 62-year-old carpenter, pausing to feel the warmth of the morning sun on his face as he sips his coffee. To others, it's just another day. But to Marcus, it's a moment of quiet joy. Decadesago. He was homeless, sleeping on cold streets, convinced life had nothing left to offer. Through years of rebuilding, he learned what Jung called existential appreciation, a profound gratitude for the smallest moments that most people overlook. For Marcus, the taste of a warm meal or a kind word from a stranger feels like a miracle. Jung's research shows that hidden survivors develop this gratitude not through positive thinking, but through proximity to mortality, the experience of losing everything and rediscovering life's value. They've touched rock bottom and learned that every small pleasure is a gift. You'll notice this in how they savor moments, a child's laugh, a cool breeze, a simple conversation. Jung described this as psychological transcendence, a shift in consciousness where life's fleeting joys become sacred. Marcus doesn't chase grand achievements, he finds the extraordinary in the ordinary. Why does this matter? Because this gratitude rewires how you live. Jung found that those who've completed what he called the descent and return a journey into darkness and back stop taking life for granted. They know how quickly it can change, so they cherish the present. This isn't forced positivity. It's a natural awe for life's fragility. When you see someone pause to appreciate a sunset or smile at a small kindness, you're witnessing wisdom earned through survival, a reminder to find joy in the now. Sign 9. Patience with life now. Imagine Priya, a 29-year-old aspiring entrepreneur, waiting years for her business idea to take off. While others might give up or force outcomes, Priya moves forward, with steady trust in the process. After surviving a childhood marked by instability, she learned that growth unfolds on its own timeline. Jung called this psychological maturity, the ability to hold tension without rushing for answers. Priya doesn't force conversations to resolution or panic in uncertainty. She knows life works in seasons, not moments. Jung discovered that hidden survivors develop this patience through enduring periods of stagnation followed by sudden breakthroughs. They've learned what he termed divine timing, the understanding that everything happens when it's meant to, not when you want it to. You'll see this in their calm approach to challenges. When a project stalls or a dream feels out of reach, they don't fight the delay, they trust it. Priya, for example, spent years refining her business plan, trusting that persistence would pay off. When her company finally launched, it was stronger for it. Why is this so powerful? Because patience isn't passive, it's active faith in life's unfolding. Jung found that those who face their darkest moments learn to stop resisting and start accepting, reducing suffering and creating peace. This patience extends to others. 2. Priya mentors young entrepreneurs with grace, remembering her own struggles. When you meet someone who waits without frustration, who trusts the journey over the outcome, you're seeing wisdom forged in hardship, a wisdom you can cultivate too. Sign 11. Quiet. Confidence. Finally, meet Elena, a 47-year-old community organizer who walks into a room with a presence that commands respect, not through loud boasts, but through calm assurance. After surviving a toxic workplace that eroded her self-worth, Elena rebuilt her sense of self through years of inner work. She doesn't need to prove her value with achievements or applause. She knows who she is. Jung called this authentic self-love, a confidence that emerges only after facing your deepest fears and choosing to embrace yourself, flaws and all. Jung's research reveals that hidden survivors develop this quiet confidence through what he termed earned wholeness. They've examined their shadows, accepted their imperfections, and stopped seeking external validation. You'll notice this in their lack of defensiveness when criticized. Elena listens, but doesn't argue. She's already weighed those critiques within herself. Her worth isn't tied to what others think, but to her integrated self. Where conscious and unconscious parts of her personality align, she doesn't boast about her successes because her value lies in being, not doing. Why does this matter? Because this confidence is contagious in the best way. Jung found that those who've achieved this integration inspire others not through force, but through example. Elena's quiet strength encourages her community to trust themselves too. It's what Jung called the ultimate marker of transformation, knowing you don't need to be perfect to be worthy. When you meet someone who carries this unshakable calm, you feel it a strength that whispers, not shouts, inviting you to embrace your own worth. Why wisdom from experience matters gratitude in small things, patience with life, and quiet confidence. These are the fruits of a life transformed by hardship. Jung believed that those who've been through hell don't just survive, they become sages of their own stories. They've learned to cherish the moment, trust the journey, and love themselves without conditions. As you reflect on Marcus savoring his coffee, Priya waiting for her dream, or Elena leading with quiet strength, ask yourself, can I find joy in the small things? Am I patient with my own growth? Do I trust my worth without needing to prove it? These signs aren't just markers of survival. They're a roadmap to a wiser, fuller life. You've just uncovered the 11 signs of those who've walked through fire and emerged as hidden survivors, stronger, wiser, and more alive. From pausing before speaking to radiating quiet confidence, these aren't just traits. They're a roadmap to becoming your truest self. Just as Carl Jung envisioned. Think about it. Every person you've met who carries that unshakable calm, that soul-deep compassion, or that fearless authenticity, they've been through hell and chosen growth over surrender. But here's the real power: you have that same potential. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This isn't just about recognizing survivors, it's about becoming one. So, what's your next step? Look within. Which of these signs do you already see in yourself? Maybe it's the way you pause to choose your words, or the courage to set boundaries without apology. Maybe it's the gratitude you feel for a small moment that lights up your day. Wherever you are, on your journey, you're closer than you think to unlocking your own transformation. The question isn't whether you can, it's whether you will. If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button. Tap the bell to join the Jung Psyche Hub community. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe they're on their own path through the fire. Drop a comment below. Which sign spoke to you the most? What's one step you'll take today to embrace your inner survivor? Your story could inspire someone else. And if you want to dive deeper into Jung's wisdom, check out our other videos on self-discovery and transformation. Let's walk this path together, because your journey to becoming who you truly are starts now.